Tension on the second round of the playoffs. They'll take on the lowest remaining seed in the NFC once this weekend's wild card round is done. Detroit beat Minnesota to close out the regular season and capture the top seed in the NFC and the division title. Quarterback Jared Goff.
It's what we talked about when we first got here. Certainly when I first got here was what the opportunity you dream about is being able to win division championships in the NFC North and then ultimately win Super Bowls, and that's what's next for us. I think, this is fun and exciting, and we obviously wanted it really bad. We're going to enjoy the heck out of it, but it's step one.
In overtime last night, the Red Wings beat the Senators 3-2. Detroit rallied back from a 2-1 deficit after the second. Patrick Kane scored the overtime winner, 2:21 into the extra session on the power play. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Now's the time to shop limited-time doorbuster deals during Pro Savings Days at Lowe's. Save $50 on a Little Giant King Combo 6-foot ladder. Was $199, now $149. Plus, save $100 on a DeWalt XR 20-volt Power Stack 5-amp-hour battery. Was $199, now $99. Get these can't-miss deals now before they're gone. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Doorbusters valid 1/13 through 1/15. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Smart is coming back. The days of just picking teams based on a coin toss are over. You need the latest stats, odds, and information. Make a plan. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Well, duh. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, let's not know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, SiriusXM Channel 159.
Oh yeah, another day, another dollar. The best hour of your day officially underway. It is Moneyline, SiriusXM Channel 159 radio on the SportsGrid Network. Your boy DRS on a solo mission as we look forward to an exciting next 5 days. Now tonight, you get a little bit of a breather from football, but you do have an outstanding NBA game tonight, which faces the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. That line currently sitting at 2.5. Should be a great one tonight. The NBA season for me, just starting to get the feels of it. The same thing with college basketball. You had what you thought was a great game on last night between Tennessee and Florida. And Florida absolutely pulled the rug out of Tennessee and said, we're the better defensive team. You can't make any shots. We're going to blow you up by 30 points, and away you go. SEC should be a fun basketball conference, just like the ACC and the Big East and the Big Ten and every other team, the Big 12, which you know I love in college basketball. Those times will come. We are going to handicap basketball more and more as we go along, but today, just not that day yet. Why? Because we got hot NFL topics, and we got to get you ready for this weekend's action. And I've been asked multiple times this week by DM, hey, you looking at any of the games this weekend? What are you looking to do? Where are your bets going to go? And I did send a few out yesterday. If you're not following me, go ahead and do so. I try to share as many tickets as possible on Twitter/X at RightSideVP. I got 3 tickets already out from yesterday. We're going to go over those once we get to the 6 games this weekend. 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, and then another game on Monday night. Also, wrapped around on Thursday and Friday, we have the national semifinals here in college football in their playoff. And an exciting one tomorrow night between Penn State and Notre Dame. And then on Friday night, you're going to have Texas and Ohio State. But where do we begin? The hot topics you know I love to talk about, and it's really the coaching searches and what we're finding out. And there aren't any surprises. If you listen this morning to the early line, understand this. Once again, professional sports is an anomaly. In the business world, it usually doesn't work this way, but in sports, it does, and particularly in the NFL. It does not matter how bad of an owner you are, you will always make money. It doesn't matter if you never make the playoffs in the NFL as an owner, you will always make money. It doesn't matter if you take over a franchise like Daniel Snyder did when they were the Washington Redskins, eventually became the Washington football team, and then the Washington Commanders, and you are unceremoniously, I should say, thrown out of the league. You put billions and billions and billions of dollars in your pocket because it doesn't matter. You can run everything into the ground. Mark Davis, the son of Al Davis, who again took over for his father. Now, his father throughout the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, boy, the Raiders were hot as a pistol. You take a look at anything in culture, everybody had Raiders gear. The silver and black, Los Angeles. Al ran that football team into the ground. He did, and started to. Imagine being such a good businessman that you left the state of California, you left Los Angeles in the state of California to go to Oakland. You could have been the Los Angeles Raiders as the only team in Los Angeles for decades and think how much that team would have been worth. But he moved them back to Oakland, limited their exposure because it's the 49ers technically up there that rule the roost, and also eventually moving yourself down south into Las Vegas when your son takes over, and he has been abysmal too. So what do you expect out of the Raiders? Never really anything good coming into the season. What were your expectations of the Las Vegas Raiders? For me, nil, zero, nothing. Bad ownership reflects bad play on the field. Antonio Pierce, who rallied the troops last year, ended up getting the job. Were we saying, because typically as a head coach, you have to come in with some pedigree. You're a play caller, offense, defense, whatever it is. You really didn't have that with Pierce. What you had with Pierce is, a player's coach, been there, done that before, understands the risks and the rigors of an NFL season. That's not what you're getting here, and it's not his fault. So the Raiders fire Antonio Pierce yesterday. Somebody, that's unfair. What did you want to have happen? Do you remember when they were going to hire Rich Bisaccia because he got them to play and actually got them to the playoffs? That doesn't really work. Like, you need the hot figure, whether it's a defensive coordinator, which I always typically disagree with. I would rather go with the hot offensive coach because you're never going to lose him. It's harder to find the hot offensive coordinator than it is the hot defensive coordinator. And that's been proven time and time again. But for Pierce, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, trade away Devontae Adams. Hey, thanks for nothing. Josh Jacobs, who's performing extremely well in Green Bay. They were supposed to come in last place, and they did, and it was no surprise. Like Tom Brady had to have a meeting with Mark Davis to say, hey, it's time to make a change here on Antonio Pierce. He got the shaft. It wasn't his fault, but he is the big winner. Make no mistake about it. You guys always know my stance. When it comes to professional football coaches who get fired early in their contracts, they're the big winner. Don't feel bad for Antonio Pierce. Don't. Because chances are he signed a 4 or 5 year deal, excess of $5 million a year, and that money gets wired into his account immediately when he's fired. Or if they work out a layaway payment plan for him. He will be just fine. But how about the Raiders? Do you want to take that Raiders job? Well, hey, Donnie, it's one of 32 NFL coaching jobs. Of course you would take that job. Yeah, because it's going to pay a lot, and if you get fired, it's guaranteed money. But if you handpicking yourself to go to the Raiders as opposed to the other openings that are out there, and there are 5 right now, where you say, yeah, would love to live in Nevada. Would absolutely love to go ahead and say, Nevada's my place. I love Las Vegas. I like the weather. I like the casinos. I like the gambling. I like the vibe. It is a wonderful place, you probably would assume, to go out there. And then you say, okay, who are we playing every year? Well, you have a rotating schedule, but you know your division. Okay, explain your division to me. 2 against Kansas City. Ooh. That's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes 2 times a year. Okay, all right. The Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and Herbert and even more talent in the next couple of years that they're going to stack on that team. That's 2 again. All right. Now, you got to get a layup out here, right? Denver Broncos. Oh, those Denver Broncos. Under Sean Payton with a limited payroll because of how much dead money you ate with the deal to just get rid of your previous quarterback, in Russell Wilson, to get your future quarterback in Bo Nix. Oh, by the way, they made the playoffs. That's another 2 games a year. So for me, Vegas is a wonderful spot if you're a coach or a player to go to until you say to yourself, you're going to expect me, Mr. Davis, to win this division and be competitive? Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing that at this point here. See that? See that? Not so great a job at this point here, but also the ownership reflects everything that's wrong with that organization. Coach after coach after coach, general manager after general manager after general manager. You keep the same general manager that actually hired Antonio Peterson, expecting to make the next decision, or is it just Tom Brady on a Sunday afternoon calling football games around the NFL for Fox, but as a part-time owner has the ear of Mark Davis and says we should fire this guy? No sleep lost, as I said. He gets paid a lot of money, Antonio Pierce, to just go by, relax. He can hit the buffets, he can gamble, he can drink, he can smoke, he can sleep in late. He can do whatever he wants to now because he is set for life with how much money he made from the Las Vegas Raiders. Another guy, Mike McCarthy. The Chicago Bears, one of the densest, dumbest organizations in the NFL. We want to interview Mike McCarthy, which I think is funny, where Mike McCarthy is still under contract until, I believe, the 14th of this month. So another week with the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys like, oh, you can't interview him. We all know Mike McCarthy is going back to the Dallas Cowboys. That's no surprise. Jerry likes that. Do or die year. I died. I didn't make the playoffs. Welcome back, Mike McCarthy. It's Moneyline, and I'm ready to go. It's Wednesday. We'll be right back.
We're the club you want to join, even though we'd have you as a member.
You'll like it here. We have munchies.
And the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Mark Zuckerberg is moving Meta's platform security and content oversight team out of California and shifting staff who review posts to Texas in a bid to combat concerns about liberal bias and over-censorship at his social media empire. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. The CEO of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Threads parent company said on Tuesday that the moves would help return Meta to its, quote, roots about free expression and giving people a voice on our platforms. Elon Musk shut X's headquarters in San Francisco last fall in favor of operating the company out of Bastrop, Texas. A national day of observance has been declared in recognition of the life and death of former President Jimmy Carter. The Postal Service will suspend regular mail deliveries, retail services, and administrative office activity on Thursday. All Postal Service facilities are included in the National Day of Observance. Regular operations will resume on Friday, January 10th. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Hey, you've definitely had a busy month. Finding gifts, sending cards, hosting family. Well, now it's time to treat yourself at Macy's After Christmas Sale. Come and find great deals on something just for you. Like 25% off New Year's party looks from DKNY, Adriana Papel, and more. So enjoy the week and get yourself the gifts you really wanted before these limited time deals are over. At Macy's After Christmas Sale. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
This holiday season, Capital One reminds you to give yourself the gift of 1.5% cash back with the Capital One Quicksilver Card.
Can I earn 1.5% cash back on birds?
Birds?
What if you sent your true love 2 turtle doves plus a partridge in a pear tree?
Sure, but why would anyone want that?
The song was very convincing.
Earn 1.5% cash back on all your holiday purchases with the Capital One Quicksilver Card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
You've heard of smart bombs,
Smartphones, smart cars, smart watches, and smart glasses.
Now you can add smart player.
Giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Yeah, getting after it. You know what I love about Super Wildcard Weekend, too, and the NFL? Well, you get those props out early. Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. We're not waiting long. And specifically from last week, as you had to wait just about the entire week on some of those games to actually get action on those. That's not the case this week. And we already hammered a couple bets. Once again, at Rightside VP, if you want to check in and review the timeline, they're out there, which we're going to go over in just a few moments. But as we are handicapping the NFL this weekend to sort of get a mix on it, 6 total games, as we said, 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday, 1 on Monday. I do like that setup. It used to be 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, which is really cool. But the advent of Monday Night Football, just to give you a little bit more in prime time, and also a later start on a Saturday, I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. And there are good football games and some fun that we can have on those. And before we get into the props, let's just go over where some of the lines currently sit now, where they're going, and betting tickets per se on those games. Game number one, which is always reserved if the Houston Texans win their division, they always play first. It's just what happens here. The Chargers in Houston, 375, 376 on the rotation, a 4:30 start on Saturday. Of course, the two quarterbacks, Justin Herbert taking on C.J. Stroud. This line opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook in New Jersey at -3 at -104. So a favorite towards the Chargers on the road. And I do agree with that. FanDuel today is actually down to 2.5 at a -118 price. DraftKings at a 2.5 at -120. BetMGM, Bet365, and the Westgate out in Vegas, all light juice, but those lines are sitting at 3. If we look at the ticket count across most books here, 7 out of every 10 tickets currently coming in on the Chargers. And I can't disagree, because I got to tell you, if you are watching when those opening lines came out and you saw exactly what the matchups are going to be, I said to myself, like, without even a hesitation, yeah, the Chargers will win that game. Houston is a good football team. They won their division, but they are banged up. But it feels like the Chargers, coming into this game on Saturday against Houston, do have a leg up on them. Justin Herbert completely healthy. J.K. Dobbins looks like he's healthy now. You even have a wide receiver in Quentin Johnston. Looks like he can catch the football and be an effective wide receiver to go along with Ladd McConkey. And that defense is pretty stout, and I love the coaching staff for the Chargers. DeMeco Ryan on the other opposite side there as a head coach for Houston, dinged up on offense. Mixon will still be there, looks healthy. The offensive line is okay. They'll get some pressure from those two defensive ends here for the Chargers, no doubt about it. But how good can Nico Collins be? How good can Bobby Slowick be going up against that defense of Jesse Minter and the Los Angeles Chargers? Sides for me, as you know, not really where I like to hammer away. I might pick a couple sides and bet a couple sides a little bit later this week. But this was one of those games that scared me a little bit, knowing how much I did like the Chargers coming in, seeing what the price point on the Chargers was, and then taking a look at that ticket count. Always something that you have to put into the equation. Now, the total opened up at 44.5 at FanDuel in New Jersey. That is now down 2 full points to 42.5. And that 42.5, guys, sits all the way across the board. So if we are looking, and just to keep it simple, because I'm going to go over some numbers and statistics, but I look at FanDuel just because it's easy to get around when it's a solo hosting show like I'm doing today, and I don't have the time to go to 5 or 6 books or, check certain outlets of what might be. Touchdown scoring market this weekend, and I love this because a lot of these games are relatively cheap. Joe Mixon at -125. He's the favorite in that game. Running back here for the Houston Texans. Followed by Ladd McConkey at a +125, and actually a little bit lower than that is J.K. Dobbins, who just went down to a +120 price. Usual suspects. Nico Collins at wide receiver, +135. Quentin Johnston at +240. Not really a market that I dive into all that much. But again, when we do our shows, which keep in mind, Pro Football Today will be live on Saturday, 10 a.m., even though those games don't start till 4:30. Keep it the same time in the morning. Same thing with Sunday as well, 10 a.m. And then we'll be together for Pro Football Today prime time for that game on Monday Night Football, which we'll get to. So you're going to get a Saturday, a Sunday, and a Monday of the Pro Football Today crew running roughshod out here in these streets. That's exciting. Just wanted to keep the guys up to date. But if we are getting into some of the passing props in this game, C.J. Stroud, 231.5. Justin Herbert, 231.5. Same juice on both sides. That's rare. I don't think I've ever seen that before. The same exact pricing on both of those quarterbacks. The touchdown passes, which I cashed in last week on a prop for Justin Herbert over 1.5 touchdown passes. He's also listed at that same price, -1.5 and a -102 number. C.J. Stroud over 1.5 touchdown passes at a +148. Doesn't stick out all that much. Receiving props, which these have changed quite a bit this week already. Nico Collins, the number one wide receiver here for the Houston Texans. He's sitting at 87.5 yards. Ladd McConkey, the number one here for the Los Angeles Chargers, 72.5. Then you start to drop down. Quentin Johnston had a monster game last week against the Raiders. He's at 42.5. Dalton Schultz, 35.5. Will Dissly, 30.5. Mixon and Dobbins as the running backs, 19.5 for Mixon, and for Dobbins, 10.5, respectively. This, I would probably say, looking at all of the football games, probably my least favorite overall, where you're trying to actually pick out what you love. Because you know me, I like to typically lean towards secondary options. The Dalton Schultzes of the world, the Quentin Johnstons of the world. as opposed to going toe-to-toe and just taking the top of the market, which would be Nico Collins and Ladd McConkey. But I do think there could be some value in the running game. Joe Mixon at 71.5. You know he's going to get the ball a lot. J.K. Dobbins at 62.5. We're expecting 15-plus carries out of Dobbins. But the quarterbacks are always interesting to me in the playoffs for one reason. You're now no longer saying next week, let's just say, we'll be in the clear. Because if you lose your quarterback trying to give your best effort in weeks 11 or 12 by getting an extra first down, and he sits out week 12, 13, 14, you generally tell him, don't do that. We cannot risk any injury at that point. But in the playoffs, all bets are off. And the one guy you take a look at, Justin Herbert at 18.5, his wheels are back. He's not banged up. Early in the season, high ankle sprains, not there anymore. Much more healthy. Like when you're talking about the trajectory of a football team on both of these, like Houston feels like it's running on empty right now, saying, hey, you know what? Hopefully C.J. Stroud can regain what he did as a rookie and we can catch some lightning in a bottle. And hopefully Nico Collins goes nuts and Joe Mixon is active in that game. Where now you're looking at the Chargers going, okay, Dobbins is back. He was hurt. You know, you take a look at Ladd McConkey, who has been hurt so many weeks. Looks like he's much more healthy. Same thing with your quarterback, Justin Herbert. 18.5 as a rushing prop. Certainly interesting to take a look at. We'll continue this deep dive of Wild Card Weekend right here on Moneyline. I'll be right back.
We never stop giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24 hours a day.
7 days a week. Business hours are for losers.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1984, the AFC Championship at the LA Memorial Coliseum. The Raiders beat the Seattle Seahawks 30-14. In the NFC Championship at RFK Stadium, Washington beats the San Francisco 49ers 24-21. The Raiders would go on to crush Washington in the Super Bowl 38-9.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
AI algorithms trained by Dartmouth researchers with tens of thousands of knee x-rays looking for hidden medical insights. The AI discovered if orthopedic patients drank beer or didn't like to eat refried beans. These amazing, subtle, unintended patterns in the data are all highly accurate, except have absolutely no basis in medical fact. An AI defect known as shortcut learning, while it's a great tool, AI doesn't actually reason or understand and can easily hallucinate.
Your uncontrolled laughter is caused by an overdeveloped funny bone. Let's remove it.
Follow me at Chicapalvo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
The Jags, who fired Doug Peterson this morning. A lot of conversation around keeping Trent Baalke as the GM. What an idiotic move by Sean Khan in Duval County. The Colts, Jim Irsay saying that both Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard will be back. Oh boy, I wouldn't want to be in Indy this offseason.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network.
There, Sporto.
We know you've been hurt in the past. Big stations with big promises lied to you, suckered you in.
We don't do that. We're the real deal.
You can take our information to the bank. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Yo, right back at it here. Trying to get you people ready. You people! For an exciting Super Wildcard weekend. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Just talked a little bit on the Chargers and Houston. Now let's get to the good stuff here and get to some of the wagers that we have placed. I'm just going to bring up my Twitter account just to get the official numbers on what I did tweet out yesterday, because a couple plays were starting to shoot out, and that's on a Tuesday. Sometimes that's rare for me. Usually like the things settle in, but I didn't want to lose some of the lines that I had. And we'll see if I got the right lines and the CLV by the end of the week, and I do believe I did that at this point. But if we are going to take a look at Pittsburgh and Baltimore, what's the first thing that sticks out to most people? You see that line. Opened up at 8.5 at FanDuel, now sitting at 9.5. Some outlets, which include Bet365, are still sitting at 10-point favorites for the Baltimore Ravens. A total in this game that opened up at 46.5 now sits at 43.5 at most outlets, so it is dropping. Weather conditions here, not going to be that bad in Baltimore. We were expecting maybe to get one of those East Coast snowstorms on Saturday. Doesn't look like it's all going to be too much fruitful for that snowstorm, so we shouldn't have any issues. But the Baltimore Ravens, who were impressive in their last win, closing up the season against the Cleveland Browns, who were dead in the water, and the second half really took control of that game and ended up covering a 3-touchdown number. The Pittsburgh Steelers that are just flailing their arms in the air right now as the season winds down, they've been bad, particularly on offense. And if you're watching, because you know me, talked about early in the season, I thought it was the right move for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go to Russell Wilson over Justin Fields, just to improve that passing game. Well, the passing game isn't looking all that great, and I don't know what is going on with George Pickens, if he's just self-sabotaging that team or they can't get him the football. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense to me. Having said that, that line is pretty dramatic if you can get the double digits. But hear me out on this. The Pittsburgh Steelers, talking to Ben on the early line this morning, the team total for the Steelers, where does that sit? 16.5 points. That's pretty low. It is. The Baltimore Ravens, who yesterday, Zay Flowers did not practice. We'll see if he practices today. If he does play this weekend, he's not going to be 100%, and that's clear, right, at this point. You look at the previous 2 games between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Each one of those teams split those games. But a lot of differences. How about this? Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson in both of those games threw for identical yardage, 207 and 207. How about that? But the ground game, one game, 38 carries, 220 yards for 5.8 carries. 5.8 yards per carry, excuse me. That was in the victory for Baltimore. In the loss for Baltimore, 19 carries for 124 yards. That's 6.5 yards per carry. In the playoffs, for the Baltimore Ravens, it's very true. Understand your identity, stick to it. What got you there? Was it throwing the football all over the lot 50 times? No, it's not. It's Lamar Jackson throwing 25 to 30 maximum times per game and running the football against the Steelers defense that you can bully. You see the total in the game, 43.5. You see the Pittsburgh team total at 16.5. We're not expecting a lot of points from Pittsburgh. So what is the effort for the Baltimore Ravens on offense outside of don't turn the football over, pass when you need to, but settle in on the ground game? So one of the wagers that I made for this weekend's game already, it's Lamar Jackson and his passing yardage prop under 220. Now let me just set up some things here. So let me go to passing yards. All right, I'm just going to see where they're at on some outlets. Bet365 is at 215 right now for Lamar Jackson because the high watermark was yesterday on Fanatics at 220.5 is where I got that. Let's see some other books out here. Underdog, nope. Fanatics has now dropped to 215.5. So I got a 5-yard difference from yesterday to today, and that's the reason why I made sure I wanted to grab that. Let's see what else we have here. FanDuel's 217.5, and DraftKings is 215.5 market. So CLV is already there, but we don't grade ourselves on that. But I did understand that I was getting a good price and a good number in a game that I have the Baltimore Ravens running the heck out of the football. And I thought that was a good number, 220 to take the under. So I took that, stamped it, and away we go there. So let's take a look now if we're saying to ourselves, okay, if Lamar Jackson's going to be the linchpin, he can throw multiple touchdown passes and probably will. But I just don't see him throwing 30-plus times in this game because I think they're going to control the game flow, which means a lot of Derrick Henry and a lot of Lamar Jackson on the ground. But after this commercial break comes up here, we're going to reset it and take a look at this game from a prop perspective outside the quarterbacks. Anything we can look at wide receiver or tight end? Anything we can look at, maybe a sack prop here? Let's get after it. Steelers-Ravens. We'll continue the talk next.
You're listening to your source of sports gaming strategies and information.
We call it the winning edge.
It helps make the odds even. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The Bears head coaching search is in full swing. The team reportedly set to interview former Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll this Thursday. A number of other names have also drawn interest, including former Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, among others. Chicago GM Ryan Poles said the organization's willing to take its time to find the right fit.
We're looking for clear vision. We're going to cast a wide net. It's going to be a diverse group. There's going to be different backgrounds from offense, defense, special teams, college, pro. We are turning every stone to make sure that we're doing this the right way. We believe that's going to be really, really important. There's going to be some names that you don't expect that are going to surprise you because we're digging deeper than we ever have before.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
This sandwich is not just spicy, it's flavorful.
Hi, this is Matayo. And this is Elsa. And a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick. Because the spice comes in at just the right moment.
Oh, no. A little thing I love is that cilantro lime sauce. It's a fun blend of zesty and bold. That's what really makes me happy. Are you going to eat all your fries?
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Be the master of your domain.
Get the SportsGrid mobile app so now you can get the winning edge while your wife is in a dressing room trying on stuff while you wait patiently on the uncomfortable chair. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Setting the table here for this weekend's action, just filling out a couple more things here online, trying to pull some sports books into the equation so we can go over a couple things here. And of course, when you try to do it live on the air, it doesn't help you out sometimes. Come on, FanDuel, prop up for me here. There we go. All right, so we got FanDuel in there. Okay, so I got 3 sports books up that we can look at and sort of trade off with some of these lines coming up. But as I said, I want to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I wanted to look at the Baltimore Ravens game and try to get inside some of these numbers. Anytime touchdown market, which is an interesting one for this one. Derrick Henry minus 185. Okay. Do we think he's going to score? Scored twice last week. Had a big high number. Thought he would get in. Scored twice in the second half. Mark Andrews, who's been red hot, at least I think he's on a 7-game touchdown streak now. At plus 115. Rashad Bateman, who might be the leading target receiver here for Baltimore with Zay Flowers banged up. He scored a touchdown last week and he's plus 150 this week. George Pickens, the wide receiver that's out of touch and seeming like he's playing on the moon as opposed to the, nice turf of the earth in the United States. That's a plus 210 price. And Najee Harris, who gets a lot of the goal line work, is plus 230. Lamar Jackson, you want him to score a touchdown this weekend? Plus 240 price. Isaiah Likely plus 240. Pat Fryermuth at a plus 280 number. So they are intriguing ones there to go over. The quarterback props, as we said. FanDuel is currently listing Lamar Jackson 217.5, which might be the best of it out there that's left. As I told you, I already have the 220 and under. So if you want the overs, probably want to avoid FanDuel at this point. If you want the unders, probably the best book out there. Russell Wilson, 205.5 at Fanatics, 203.5 at Bet365, 206.5 at FanDuel. Normally, I'd say to myself, they're going to be losing this football game in throwing, but is there a chance that Russ is ineffective where Justin Fields actually gets to play in this one? I'm pretty much out on Russell Wilson taking him in this game or trying to bank on him doing something good. Passing touchdowns in this game. Russell Wilson to throw 2, plus 185. Crazy high number. Lamar Jackson to throw 2, minus 156 here, listed at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So there you go with that. Receiving props in this game. Just looking at FanDuel. George Pickens, 54.5. He was around 49.5 to 50.5 at some outlets earlier in the week. Let me just see if we can pick up those receiving yards for him now. Let's see. Let's scroll down. Bateman. There we go. Pickens. So 55.5 at Fanatics, 52.5 at Bet365, 54.5 at FanDuel. So a pretty good discrepancy between those few books. But if the Steelers are going to have success in this game, George Pickens has to show up. Got a catch last week for no yards. He has been insignificant, and it looked like he was hitting that turbocharge button for a while, to be honest. Like, hey, true number one, working well with Russell Wilson. Excited that Russ is out there, and it's completely going AWOL in some of these games. Pat Freiermuth, 44.5 as his number. Mark Andrews, 40. It's the same thing again. 44.5. How about that, both tight ends? But I do trust Mark Andrews. Trusted him last week to get a touchdown, and he punched it in. Freiermuth also scored a touchdown last week. Maybe they're the go-to guys because you are getting discounts and deep discounts at the wide receiver position. Now, no stranger right now, Zay Flowers, who I don't think is on anywhere. Maybe do we have any look-ahead lines on Flowers? Let's see. No, Zay Flowers isn't showing up at any outlet right now, and rightfully so. Not sure if he's going to play. We'll see if he practices once those practice reports come out here. Najee Harris in the passing game, 9.5. Rashad Bateman, 45.5. Likely the backup tight end in Baltimore, who plays in a lot of double tight end sets in 12s formation, 27.5. Jaylen Warren, 21.5. And Van Jefferson, 10.5. Rushing props in this game, which is probably where you would be centered around and maybe finding the best value. Two rock'em sock'em robot teams, understandably, it's a 10-point game, and maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't running it so much in the second half if you feel that they're getting beat up a bit. But Derrick Henry, 98.5 at FanDuel. Let's check to see what he's got. Other outlets out here. Let's see. Derrick Henry, 100.5 at Fanatics, 98.5 at FanDuel, 98.5 at Bet365. Lamar Jackson, Fanatics, 50.5. Bet365, 49.5. FanDuel, 48.5. Najee Harris. Let's check his numbers here. Where are you at, Najee? Okay, we got some reason. There we go. 40.5 at 365. Excuse me, at Fanatics, but it is juiced at minus 130. 42.5 at Bet365. 42.5 at FanDuel. That's one where if the Steelers are in this game, he's getting double-digit carries. Can he just hold his weight there at that point? Now, understandably, we know that the Baltimore Ravens do have a pretty stout run defense. Doesn't mean you're not going to die trying. Russell Wilson at 15.5. The guy barely runs anymore at this point. Jaylen Warren at 34.5. Burned me a little bit last week. Didn't get a lot of carries, but away you go. And Jaylen Warren right now, 31.5 at Bet365, 34.5 at FanDuel. That's basically an extra carry that they figure he's probably not going to get there. But if you are handicapping this game, early in the week for me, it's like, that's too many points. It's just too many points. But when you look at what you're getting on offense out of the Pittsburgh Steelers, it hasn't been great. Ben asked me the question this morning, like, enough to take the Pittsburgh Steelers, what are you actually going to do? I said to myself, like, you know what? They got to score 24 points in this game. I don't know if they can. I really don't. As long as the Baltimore Ravens play within themselves, they should be able to beat them. But at the same time, that still is a really, really good pass rush. A really good pass rush from the Pittsburgh Steelers to try to tie some things down. Those are the Saturday games: Chargers, Texans, Steelers, Ravens. Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills, Sunday at 1 o'clock. Weather conditions aren't that bad across the map. If we get the updated numbers, let me just hit the quick refresh here on the anticipation. Looks like 25 degrees at kickoff, 8-mile-an-hour winds. Let me just dip into this a little bit more. Kickoff, 25 degrees, okay. Real field temperature, 16 degrees. 8-mile-an-hour winds, which is great for Buffalo. Keep that down. And a slight chance of snow showers throughout the game. The gusts are going to be low. The wind is going to be low. Yes, it is going to be cold temperatures, but understand the task at hand. The Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills are both cold weather teams. They're used to this. You're not going to get any shocks. They live it just about every single day. The total in this game is sitting at 47.5. Now, early in the week, I haven't taken any wagers just yet on this game. Struggling a little bit with the effort of saying, Donnie, can a rookie quarterback, which is what Bo Nix is, go on the road and challenge Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? The one thing we know about the Denver Broncos this season all along, guys, is what? If we are expecting the Denver Broncos to win and are favored to win, they will win football games. But at the same time, when the Denver Broncos possibly go on the road and play a team that's better than them, it hasn't worked out all that much in their favor, including a few games where they got slapped around. But I do think that number is a little bit high at 8.5. And the same thing we just talked about the Steelers and the Ravens as high as 10. There's a reason that number is there. One person just didn't pick that out and say, this feels right. The Bills are a better team. And the Denver Broncos don't have a ton of rushing game for them, right? To try to keep them in the game and say, we can just hand off to one guy. It's more of a multitude of running backs and maybe riding the hot hand. Audric Estime, 22.5 is the lowest number at Bet365 right now. Jaleel McLaughlin, lowest number, 30.5 at Bet365. But the guy I'm actually most interested in, and his low number also is at Bet365, it's Bo Nix at 22.5. And if I just bring up Bo Nix's statistics here, as I look for the Denver Broncos, the last 4 games for Bo Nix have been very good. Using his legs more and more, which includes the last game that he just had, which I believe it might have been his season high in yardage. Let me see this. Let's go rushing, and we'll take a look at his entire season. No, he didn't. He had some big running games earlier. But look at the way he started the season. 5 for 35, 4 for 25, 9 for 47. Even had back-to-back games with 6 and 10 carries for 75 and 61. The last 4 games, 23, 25, 31, and 47. If they're losing and that pass rush is getting home, Bo Nix is going to run. I actually like that. 22.5 over for Bo Nix. Makes some sense. Johnny Wright's out on the solo mission, getting you ready for Wild Card Weekend.
Loser is kind of a mean-spirited slur.
But it doesn't have to stick.
Tell them to listen to SportsGrid and fix it.
No, thank you.
Later.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The Steelers and Ravens battle this Saturday night in Baltimore, AFC wildcard action. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin said backup quarterback Justin Fields could get some time.
I'm certainly open to utilizing Justin. He has an awesome skill set. We've done some of that in the past. We've done less of it in recent weeks. He experienced an injury or so a couple of weeks back that slowed some of that. But certainly in an effort to win this game, I am open to any combination.
On Sunday afternoon in Buffalo, the Bills play host to the Broncos in the AFC wildcard. Buffalo went 8-0 at home in the regular season. The college football playoff semifinals get underway tomorrow at the Orange Bowl in Miami. Penn State squares off with Notre Dame. Then on Friday night in Arlington, Texas at the Cotton Bowl Classic, the Ohio State Buckeyes battle the Texas Longhorns. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive.
That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Welcome back to College Bowl season. And now it looks like a fan has run onto the field carrying a $5 KFC bowl.
Oh, yeah, looks like the mac and cheese bowl with 5 original recipe nuggets, or the new Nashville hot loaded fry bowl with nuggets, coleslaw, secret recipe fries, pickles, and Nashville hot sauce. Wow, looks yummy from up here.
Boy, everybody wants that bowl as more fans are pouring onto the field. Hey, Bill.
Get the only bowls that matter this season. 5 delicious bowls, just $5 each. Only at KFC. Prices and participation may vary. Supplies last. Taxes, tips, and fees extra.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time. The next time you're out to dinner with friends, you can order the shrimp cocktail for the table. And maybe you'll realize it only comes with 4 shrimp after you've already given away 3, but that one shrimp will be so good. And if you switch and save hundreds, you could get shrimp all the time. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For shrimp. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
If SportsGrid was a burrito, we'd be the one with steak and carnitas packed so full every bite made your cheeks poof out like Dizzy Gillespie, so the name's stuck and now even your mother calls you Dizzy. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Super Wildcard Weekend, love it. Then the divisional round the next week. Then the NFC AFC Championship, then 2 weeks off, then the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Boys are going to be out there for pro football today once again. Could it be my Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl? Will it be the Detroit Lions? Is it going to be Kansas City yet again that we have to talk about? Or is it going to be a surprise team out here? Next game up, which would be the 4 o'clock game, which is actually 4:30 on Sunday afternoon between the Packers and the Eagles. No real weather concerns in this game. At kickoff, 35 degrees. Real field temperature, 27. Winds around 12 miles per hour, which do calm a little bit during the game, down to 8 miles an hour. Gusts at kickoff around 20 but that dips down into the low teens after that. No precipitation in the forecast at this point, so pretty clean conditions on Philadelphia for Sunday, which is certainly good to know. The line, which now sits at 4.5, and also the key ingredient today, the Philadelphia Eagles don't practice till later in the day, which they're practicing at Lincoln Financial Field probably because their practice field is frozen. The Pittsburgh Steelers doing the same thing as they're not practicing at their home facility. They're at Acrisure today because their field is frozen. Cold temperatures here in the Northeast nonetheless. But Jalen Hurts, who has not yet been cleared from concussion protocol based on a formality, which means that once he does practice and gets on there, that's the last step. He's expected to practice today, but if anybody was just reading between the lines, the Philadelphia Eagles sent out a tweet yesterday that said they have released Ian Book as their fourth quarterback, which means the top three quarterbacks, Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee, and Jalen Hurts will be available to go for Sunday. So that line currently sitting at 4.5 if we are looking across the board at most outlets. FanDuel opened up here in New Jersey at 3.5 as a favorite. It's now 4.5. Every outlet is showing right now 40.5. The total in this game, 46.5. Opening number, 45.5 now. There are still 46 out there out in Vegas at Westgate, but most of them hovering at 45.5. We'll see where that one goes. But understand the line. Good football team in the Green Bay Packers, but I do think the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team here. There were two wagers that I made in this game. I said, ooh, where do we want to go on this one? Do you want to take team totals? Do you want to take sides? Do you want to take quarterbacks? Do you want to take running backs? I settled on the running back position and of the Philadelphia Eagles. The one that caught my attention right off the bat, which I absolutely had to bet, was rushing attempts for Saquon Barkley. And I'm just bringing up a couple of outlets here now to see if any of these numbers have changed. Okay, for Saquon, at Bet365, which I took yesterday, was over 19.5 carries at a minus 115 price. That price has changed slightly to 19.5 at minus 125. When you take a look at Saquon Barkley, which I'm going to bring up his numbers right now, I really was caught a little bit because you can never understand, excuse me, exactly how these games are going to shake out. But I do think the Eagles win. And Saquon Barkley taking his own bye week last week, I thought was a pretty big deal. Because when you look at Saquon Barkley throughout this season, he gets a lot of work. But let's just start, per se, from the October 27th game against the Bengals. 22 carries for 108. Following week, Jaguars. 27 for 159. The week after that, the Cowboys bottled them up a little bit. 14 for 66. Then the Commanders game, 26 for 146. The Rams game, 26 for 255. The Ravens game, 23 for 107. The Panthers game, 20 for 124. The Steelers game, 19 for 65. Then the last two games that he played, because he sat the final game against the Giants, 29 carries for $150 against the Commanders, and 31 carries for 167 yards against the Dallas Cowboys. So they're basically telling you that demarcation line is going to be 20 carries. In what world, in a football game, where again health comes into it, we say Saquon is healthy, and we say the game either way is within 10 points. He's getting over 20 carries. I absolutely love this wager. No question in my mind, you're going to be looking at the half with him in the low teens already in carries. He's going to be the focal point. You know, you take a look at Kenneth Gainwell as a backup running back, might get 2 or 3 carries, third and longs, but this is going to be a Saquon game, which the second part here for me, along with going with Saquon Barkley over 19.5 carries, is the Philadelphia Eagles to score over 1.5 rushing touchdowns. You even saw it the previous week or 2 weeks ago when Kenny Pickett was playing. Quarterback sneaks, still going to be there on the tush push. They're still going to use the quarterback. So if the Eagles are inside the 5-yard line, that's Saquon territory. If they're inside the 2-yard line, that's Jalen Hurts territory, which we expect him to be cleared today on the line. So 2 plays I love in this Eagles game to start this week out. The Eagles over 1.5 touchdowns on the ground at plus 100. That's at Bet365. You can get that. The second bet I placed, Saquon Barkley over 19.5 carries at a minus 115 price, also at Bet365. Now, granted, that's why I like to tweet those out immediately when I play them. Those numbers are going to be subject to change. You take a look at some of the pricing, which we talked about, Lamar Jackson, 220.5. That number is gone. Hopefully, guys jumped on that with me yesterday, but that's why I tweet them out immediately. Yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles over 1.5 touchdowns at a +100 price. I didn't check that, but I assume that's probably about the same. But Saquon's juice is 10 cents different today from what it was yesterday. -115 up to -125, but the key number is that 20. He's going to get 20 carries in my mind, no doubt about it. Touchdown scoring market in this game. It is rising. It was cheaper yesterday, and maybe I should have taken advantage of it. Saquon Barkley, a -155 price. Jalen Hurts at a -105. That's why I combined the two. You don't want to get robbed because there's nothing worse than watching Saquon Barkley get down to the one and not get the football. And it's apparent he is the ultimate team player because he does not mind that he's not getting that ball at the one. That's fine. That's why I took the over 1.5. Now, Josh Jacobs to score a touchdown, +105. That's an interesting one because I do believe if they're in the red zone, he's getting the football, and he is a dominant running back. But I think there's more of a chance that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be up in this game for the majority of the game than the Green Bay Packers. That's why I should have shied away from slightly there for Josh Jacobs. A.J. Brown, +135. Devonta Smith, 2-1. Not really looking too much towards those receivers at this point. But if we are going and taking a look at, let's just say, the rushing yards in this game, oh, come on, man. You know what we're looking at. The two major guys here that should be able to do the damage. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. Haven't taken one of those yet because they are expensive. 100 for Barkley, essentially. Woo. Jacobs, 70. Expensive pricing. We'll be right back. It's Moneyline on the Grid.
It's a choice.
Roll the dice
or listen to us. Luck is finding a good parking spot. Strategy is getting the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The new SportsGrid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the SportsGrid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime, on the go, wherever you are. Download the SportsGrid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. SportsGrid Radio presents Gridiron Greats.
Quarterback Peyton Manning led the Colts and Broncos to Super Bowl championships in his 18-year career. Dubbed the Sheriff, Manning won 5 MVP awards, amassed close to 72,000 yards in the air, and threw for 539 touchdown passes.
A man wide open, it's Wayne at the 15, he walks in. How about that? Peyton Manning buying just a little extra time in the pocket.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Grady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Moneyline. I think Raheem Morris would deserve to be fired way more than Gerard Mayo. Your season is on the line, and Bryce Young is out there essentially going to get a statue built in Carolina at the end of that football game.
If you would have said that, Bijan went nuts. Penix looked great. You had 535 yards or whatever it was on offense, and you lost. From an Atlanta perspective, Raheem Morris, you deserve to get fired today.
Catch Moneyline with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to the voice of authority. Sports gaming strategies and information on daily sporting events. In other words, information you can take to the bank. We are your trusted source for gaming, odds, and more. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Oh, we're going to have some fun this weekend, no doubt about it. But just setting the table on a Wednesday. It's a hump day, I get it. Tomorrow, Kevin will be back. We'll talk much more college football as Notre Dame takes on Penn State. And then Friday, got another one, Texas and Ohio State. And then once again, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, where the NFL does take over. We're just reviewing some of these lines, having some fun, talking things out, and making sure I let you guys know that bets have been released at Right Side VP on Twitter as we get to the game that's going to be Sunday Night Football and the Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Total in this game, 50.5, a favorite towards the Bucs at -3. Moneyline price for the Commanders, if you want to take them outright, plus 138. If you want to lay it with Tampa Bay, it's minus 166. We'll get right to it here. Sent out a tweet again over this past week, or excuse me, yesterday, I apologize. Doing some research again, hitting some numbers, and I'm saying to myself, where's the difference going to be in this football game? What's going to change? Who's going to have the advantage? Is it the upstart Washington Commanders, maybe a year ahead of schedule at this point? Or is it going to be Baker Mayfield, who's been known to show up big in big situations and carry his football team? They were down double digits last week to a bad Saints team. Pulls that rabbit out of a hat, gets his boy Mike Evans the $3 million, and away they go into the playoffs. Which quarterback, is why I'm leading off with this, is key. Baker Mayfield is a Pro Bowl quarterback. Baker Mayfield can stand in that pocket and deliver, or if he wants to make plays with his legs, most people don't think he's overly athletic. He makes the plays that he needs to make. They're favored in this game for a reason. I think the Buccaneers are better, even though they're damaged on the back end with a lot of injuries. The Washington Commanders, after winning a really close game in overtime against the Atlanta Falcons to clinch a playoff berth, didn't play all that well last week, but still ended up winning that game after benching, their young quarterback Jaden Daniels for getting hammered in the first half for 4 sacks. Like, hey, you know what? We're going to need him next week. Still able to win. But the last 6 weeks of quarterbacks that the Washington Commanders have faced, Trey Lance, Michael Penix, Kenny Pickett, Jay Kaner, Spencer Rattler in one game versus the Saints, Will Levis, and Cooper Rush. Not a great one in either one of those. Look, can Penix be a good quarterback? Yes. That was his second career start. Trey Lance coming in from mop-up duty on a bum Cowboys team, moving the football. Interesting. Kenny Pickett coming off ice cold off the bench, being somewhat serviceable. Jay Kaner was terrible. Rattler lit it up a bit in the second half for the New Orleans Saints. Will Levis, who's atrocious, and so is Cooper Rush. Now they're getting Baker Mayfield. And if we're looking at touchdown passes, a wager that already placed, got 4 in so far this weekend already. If you want to give me a follow at Right Side VP, you can see them all right there with the tickets. But I did go with quarterback Baker Mayfield in this game to throw over 2 touchdown passes. The price I got at the Fanatics Sportsbook yesterday when I posted it, over 1.5 at a minus 160 price. It is pretty expensive. Today, Fanatics, minus 165 for 2 touchdown passes. Bet365, minus 180 for 2 touchdown passes. And FanDuel, minus 168 for 2 touchdown passes. He's going to throw 2 touchdown passes in this game. It's my favorite bet of this game and definitely think it works out. From a touchdown scoring perspective, Bucky Irving leads the way to minus 145. Everybody else is plus money. Mike Evans plus 100. Terry McLaurin plus 115. Brian Robinson Jr. plus 115. And Jalen McMillan's been a touchdown machine here for Tampa Bay at 170. I look at this and say, if you take Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan to at least get a touchdown, you can't lose in that one. One of those guys is going to get a touchdown pass, and maybe both of them do catch touchdown passes here. It's not a bad way to look. I guess Terry McLaurin with that banged-up secondary for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers does also make some sense. If we're looking at the passing props in this game, Baker Mayfield over 238, I like that. I didn't bet it, but I do like it. Jaden Daniels at 235.5. And as you said, already going down with Baker Mayfield throwing the 2 touchdown passes. Rushing props in this game, Bucky Irving, 87.5. He will be the lead dog in this game. Don't get it twisted. Brian Robinson Jr., tame at 47.5. Jaden Daniels at 48.5 after he ran, 16 times against the Atlanta Falcons. Then was getting pulverized last week from Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys. He sits at 48.5. Baker Mayfield, who's been known to get, by the way, what has Baker been doing, though? Let me just see the past couple games. Because every once in a while I see him skittering out of that backfield, making some plays here. Let's go Baker Mayfield. Sometimes the spelling here on the other keyboard jacks me around. All right. So obviously he's thrown multiple touchdown passes in the past few weeks, which we love. So we'll go to ESPN and we will go to his numbers here. All right, rushing. Let's just go last 5 games. 2 for 12 against Vegas. 2 for 25 against the Chargers. 3 for 42 against Dallas. Only 1 for 2 against Carolina in the game they pulverized them. But look at last week. In a must-win situation to move the stakes even when they were down. 9 carries for 68 yards. Baker Mayfield is listed at 17.5. As I told you, an angle I like. Quarterbacks rushing in the playoffs. For Donnie Rightside and JP behind the wheels of steel, thanks for tuning in to Moneyline. We'll be back once again tomorrow.
Everywhere. You can get SportsGrid on the radio, TV, the internet.
We've got your number, Sporto.
That shirt doesn't